Bom dia a todos. Bonjour. Hello. Today we will go in the study of characteristic classes, and we will see. Sorry, I have to. Okay. So, and we will go to up to see many people today. Stiefel, student of Hopf. Hassler Whitney, also Hassler Whitney in the States, Pondriagin in Russia, and two Chinese, Chen and Wu. We will meet this guy many times now in the following of the course. Stiefel, as I said, was a student of Hopf, and Hopf asked to Stiefel to look at what happens if we take not one vector field tangent to the manifold, as we have seen before, but R vector fields, are linearly independent vector fields that we want to be linearly independent in any point of the manifold. And it can be for the tangent bundle, but for any bundle of rank n. So we will see that the question will be taking a triangulation or a cell decomposition of the manifold. It's clear that we can construct R linearly independent vectors in each vertex of the triangulation or vertex of the cell decomposition. In point you can define as you wish R linearly independent vector field. But what happens if we want to take, for example, this on the two vertices of the same simplex or the same cell, and you want to extend inside the simplex or the cell without singularity. So you have to take vector fields such that the R vectors are extended on the one-dimensional simplex, and then you will extend on the two-dimensional simplex, and so on and so on. And until what dimension can we do that? It's not clear for the moment. Okay, so we will start with the tangent vector field. So you take a real and also real. Later on, we will work with complex. Take a real manifold of dimension n, endowed with a Pelian metric, and the tangent bundle is the vector bundle of rank n over R, the real, and the fiber is isomorphic to Rn. So we know this already, we have seen already. This vector, we know also that it is locally trivial, that you can, for any point, you take a neighborhood of the point such that over this neighborhood, the tangent bundle is a product. This we know. Okay, so now we want not to construct vector fields, that we know how to do that, but now R field. So a set of continuous vector fields, and we want that this vector field be linearly independent. Of course, we will have some singular point. The singular point are points where these vectors, R vectors, fail to be linearly independent. Okay? A non-singular R field is called an R frame. So I will use R frame for non-singular one. Well, R frames are sections, local section at least, of the fiber bundle VRTM. VRTM, what is this? This is a bundle, the fiber over a point is a set of all R frame in the fiber TM. So in the fiber, for example, if you are two-dimensional, you are three-dimensional fiber, and you can take two linearly independent, and there are many possibilities to take two linearly independent vectors in R3. Okay, so the fiber is the set of R frame in the fiber of TM. And if for a fiber, the fiber of TM is Rn. So in fact, looking at all airframes in a fiber is look at all airframes in Rn. Okay, so this is a Stiefel manifold, which is VR of Rn. And this is what we will use in the following. And I just opened a parenthesis because I discovered this very recently. There's a Stiefel manifold of many applications in physics and also in engineering. So it's very interesting and very curious. For example, they look at the stochastic differential equations in a Stiefel manifold. And there is a lot of papers speaking of particle filtering on a Stiefel manifold. So many applications, even in engineering. So it's interesting. I close the parenthesis. Okay. So we want to construct R linearly independent section of Tm over A, and that is construct a section of VR of Tm over A. That is the same thing, okay? Okay, we will work with the cell decomposition because when we will look at the singular case, we will use the cell decomposition. So it's better to start even now with the cell decomposition. I already said that to you. So we will do exactly in the same way that we did for the vector field. We suppose that you have already a section of this vector VR or Tm on the boundary of a cell of dimension k. What does it mean? It means that on the boundary, you have a field of airframes on the boundary of your cell without singularity, well defined everywhere on the boundary of your cell. And what we want to do is to extend inside the cell and to see if you can extend your airframe inside the cell. Exactly what we did for vector fields, okay? And if the answer is no, if you cannot, can you evaluate the obstruction? In the case of vectors, we evaluated the obstruction. The obstruction was the index of the vector field at the singular point, okay? So we have to define the index of an airfield at a singular point. And for that, we use some notions of general obstruction theory. In the notes I gave, I describe general obstruction theory. Here I will accept the result of this. And you see the picture I told you that is very important for vector field. It's exactly the same for airframes. Exactly the same. You have here a ball, B of dimension k. The boundary, the sphere Sk-1, and you suppose that you have already on the boundary of this ball V1, V2, V3, three vectors linearly independent, and you can look at when you make the turn, this three vector field will stay linearly independent. So you have an airframe on the boundary of the sphere. So you have a map exactly as we have seen for the vector fields from the sphere to what is now. Now it's not anymore the tangent, but it is the set of airframe in Rn, the fiber, as you have seen, okay? The set of all possible airframe in the fiber. And okay, and so by the second projection, we will go to VR of Rn. So here, for example, I have it in that point x1, V1, V2, V3, but V1, V2, V3 is one airframe in the set of all airframe possible in the fiber of the tangent. Okay, so you have 1 point. This is the frame. For x2, the same. x2 is an airframe in the fiber VR of Rn. So it is a point in VR of Rn. Okay, and the same for x3, and the same for all air field that you have on the boundary of the sphere. So you have here exactly, I did not make, but exactly the same pictures than for in the case of one vector field, but now points are airframes, okay, because this is a set of all airframes. So a point is an airframe. And you project on the set of airframes in VR of Rn, okay? So we have exactly the same, exactly the same. Now I have a map from the sphere to this VR of Rn. You remember we had a map from the sphere to Rn minus 0. And we computed the homotopy because each time you have a map from the sphere to a space, you have an element of the homotopy group. So I obtain a map from the sphere, as I said, to VR of Rn. And so I have an element, you have an element here in this homotopy group. The problem is that homotopy group of VR of Rn, we don't know a priori. So the only thing we know is that if this element is 0 here, it means that you can extend your vector field without any singularity, your airframe, without any singularity inside the ball, inside BK, okay? So you can extend without any singularity the airframe inside. That is the only thing you know. If this element is 0, you win. Well, that happens, for example, of course, if the homotopy group is 0, because in that case, all elements are 0. The answer is to know these homotopy groups, Pi of Rn. And they have been computed by Stiefel and Whitney, so we will use the result of Stiefel. And that is the result. Pk minus 1. And you have Sk minus 1 in VR of Rn. So it gives you an element of Pk minus 1 of VR of Rn. And it is either 0 if k, the dimension of the ball, is strictly less than n minus r plus 1, z, if it is equal to n minus r plus 1 odd, or k is equal to n and r is equal to 1, and it is z2 if k equal n minus r plus 1 is even and r is bigger than 1. Okay? So let us consider the 3 cases. The first case, if k is the dimension of the ball is less than n minus r plus 1, you have 0 because this is 0. So you can extend. You can extend. For example, if you start from 0, you can extend of the one-dimensional cell and then the two-dimensional cell, etc., till k equal n minus r plus 1. Okay? So you can extend, okay, on the boundary inside the without singularity in the first case. The second case, this case here we know, because it's exactly the case of r equal 1 is 1 vector field. So we know very well. We know very well, and we know that we can extend in isolated with an isolated singularity, and we know that the index will be element of z in this homotopy group, which is z in that case. Okay, so we know. Now, if r is bigger than 1 and k is n minus r plus 1, you can extend if your element is 0, but you can extend with inside D, but with an isolated singularity at the barycenter of the cell. It is defined on the boundary, and you can extend by homotopy if you wish, homotopy till the center, till the barycenter of the cell. But now you have an element in Pk minus 1 VR of Rn, which is either Z, if k minus n r plus 1 is odd, or Z2, if k n minus r plus 1 is even. Okay? So sometimes Z, sometimes Z2. So, and this is a measure of the obstruction. This is the index you have. We will call P n minus r plus 1. I will use this notation up to now, okay? And the obstruction dimension for the construction of an airframe. Because up to this dimension, you can construct without any singularity because you have 0 for dimension less than P, okay? So this is the obstruction dimension, P equal n minus r plus 1. And what does it mean? What we got, what does it mean? So we work with the vector Tm, and okay, I remember this, that we look at construction by increasing dimension of the cells. And we can extend the frame till the dimension P minus 1 without any singularity. Now we have on each cell of dimension P, we have an airframe well defined. And by homothétie, we can extend inside with a singularity at the barycenter. So we have an index for each p-dimensional cell, which is either integer or integer modulo 2. The obstruction dimension we have seen is P n minus r plus 1, where I insist n is the rank of the bundle. I did not say n is the dimension of M. N is the rank of the bundle Tm. Okay? Okay? So what is important is the rank of Tm, here is n, and that you have a triangulation or a cell, we will use cell decomposition on the basis. And we will, why not consider any vector bundle with rank n? Because what is important is not the dimension of M, is the rank of the vector field, okay? Of the vector bundle, sorry. So this is very important. What is important is the rank of the vector bundle you have over the basis. So let's go with any vector bundle of rank n. So we have a real vector bundle with n-dimensional fiber over a space X equipped with a cell decomposition. And we want to construct R everywhere independent section of E by this process that we have seen, by induction of the dimension of the cell decomposition. What is important is that X, in that case, does not need to be smooth and can be a CW complex, as we have seen, I think, in the first course. On the zero skeleton, as I said, you can construct your airframe in your bundle. So R linearly independent section. I remember that E is a real vector bundle with n-dimensional fiber. And as your bundle is rank n, you have a map, exactly the same map going to VR of Rn, okay? Where VR of Rn is a Stiefel manifold of R linearly independent vectors in the fiber. The fiber of your vector field, your vector frame, your vector bundle, you will succeed. The fiber of your vector bundle E is Rn because it's rank n. So it's exactly, in fact, the same, but what is important is that it is the rank of the vector which is important. So you have exactly the same results that I gave before. I will not insist on this, it is exactly the same. And by general obstruction theory, you can construct, okay, as I said, you can construct without any obstruction till n minus r, and you have an obstruction if you want to fill the balls with dimension n minus r plus 1, which is the obstruction dimension. And you have a singularity at the barycenter, whose index is an element of this homotopy group, which is either Z or C2, okay? So the data to each cell I associate an element of this homotopy group is exactly to say that you have a cochain When you associate to each cell an element of here the homotopy group, you have a code chain whose value is in this homotopy group. Okay, so this is definition of code chain. Exactly the definition of a code chain. So you have an element of this code chain, and the general obstruction theory says that this code chain is a co-cycle. So you can take the class of this co-cycle in cohomology, and the class will be either the homotopy group of VR of Rn here is either Z or Z2. It is Z if P n minus R plus 1 is odd, or P equal n. P equal n, in that case, it means that R is 1, and that we know very well. Or HP of X with Z2 coefficient if P is even and P is less than n. Okay, so we have this class, which is with value in Z or Z2, still no. But what we will do is to reduce everything to Z2. So we will lose some information because, of course, an integer gives more information than an integer modulo 2 because you have only 0 and 1, okay, or plus 1 and minus 1 if you prefer. And, and so you will lose information, but we have classes very well defined in cohomology of X with coefficient in Z2, making a reduction modulo 2 for these classes in the case of P is odd or P is equal to n. So you have classes now in cohomology with Z2 coefficient, which are Stiefel-Whitney cohomology classes, discovered by Stiefel and Whitney more or less at the same moment, but independently. By definition, 0 is plus 1. So you have classes in all dimensions till the dimension of your manifold, of your, not manifold, of the rank of the bundle, okay? You have to correct me when I make mistake. Later in Whitney wrote this equality. E plus, if you have two bundles of the same basis, you can compute the Whitney classes of the sum as a cup product of the Whitney classes. And Whitney made a proof for P less than 4, but for P more than 4, it was difficult, and it gives few information, but he proved the formula only for line bundles. It means n is equal to 1. So it's not very deep. But in 1948, the two Chinese guys that you have seen on the first slide, Chen and Wu, in fact, I will speak of them later also a lot. Wu was a student of Chen, okay? So, but they published the first complete proof in the same volume of Annals of Mathematics, but different proof. So it's very interesting. Now, the one thing we have to know is that on the projective space of dimension n, you can take the canonical bundle, which is a line bundle, so which means that the fiber is one-dimensional. It is R, in fact. But this bundle is a set of all pairs. Lambda is an element of the n-dimensional projective space, okay? And V is an element is a vector in lambda. So lambda is an element of this n-dimensional projective space, which is the space of all line going through Rn plus 1, you know that? And V is an element of this line passing through the origin of Rn plus 1. this canonical bundle is not trivial, and it is a basis. In fact, we will use if when n is here, when n is 1. In that case, RP1 is exactly S1. You know that. RP1 is S1. And so in that case, you have all pairs lambda V, such that lambda is a line passing through the origin of R2, and V is the vector of this line. So the bundle gamma 1, 1 is very easy to see that, it's an exercise. Gamma 1, 1 is an obvious, in the Mobius band, open because it's going to infinite. So you imagine a Mobius band, the fiber is a line. So it's a Mobius band on S1. Exactly, gamma 1, 1 is exactly a Mobius band. So this allows Hirzebruch, these properties here, allows Hirzebruch to give an axiomatic definition of Stiefel-Whitney classes. I told you I will give you a definition by obstruction theory, what we have done now, but I will give you also axiomatic definition. And I told you the obstruction theory definition allows to understand what does it mean. It means, I think you understand very well. I want to construct an airframe everywhere on my manifold. Can I do that? No, because I can do till P, so till the dimension P, and I have an obstruction if I want to continue because I have singular points with index that I know now. Okay, this is very well to understand. But if I give you a manifold and I tell you compute this, it will be sometimes very difficult. But the axiomatic definition will allow to do that. And the axiomatic definition, what is it? It says that the classes W of E, being E a real vector bundle of rank n, over a space M, which is a paracompact space, not necessarily a manifold, not necessarily smooth. There is a unique class here. M can be any dimension, not n. Okay. So there are classes here, such that the total class is the sum of all Whitney classes. Each Whitney is in HIM, in I cohomology of M with coefficient in Z2. We have reduced everything to Z2. You have naturality. What does it mean? It means that if you have a map from Y to M, you compute the Chern class, the Stiefel-Whitney classes on M, and the pullback on M. So you have E on M. Okay. I had to put, I will give you a diagram. I am sorry, I did not do that. So you have the Whitney, Stiefel-Whitney classes of E, which is on M. And you can take, as it is in cohomology, you can take inverse image that will be in cohomology of Y. Okay, so this I did not do very well. So this W of E is in cohomology of M, and F star gives you an element in cohomology of Y. But you can take the pullback of the vector field, which is the vector bundle, which is on M, pullback on Y, and then you have an element here, which is in cohomology of Y, which is W of F star of E, which is taking the Stiefel-Whitney classes of the pullback of E. So the pullback of Whitney classes is equal to the Whitney classes of the pullback. That is naturality. Whitney duality, that is here the property we have seen here. And the last axiom says exactly that if you take gamma 1, 1, the Whitney class of gamma 1, 1 is non-zero. Gamma 1, 1 is not trivial. So the Whitney class is not zero. And this gives you an element of cohomology of S1 with Z2 coefficients. Okay. So these are the axioms of axiomatic definition by Hirzebruch. Well, so of course, if you take E equal the tangent bundle to M, to a manifold M, you recover the classes we have seen. If E is a trivial bundle, you can construct without any problem everywhere. So all Stiefel-Whitney classes are 0. So you can do this exercise that I give you here, also with a n-dimensional real projective space. You have a non-zero class, and the Whitney classes is this. That is an exercise that you can do using axiomatic definition. And if M is a manifold, you have homology Whitney class. Here, n-1. Remember that you have Poincaré duality, going from cohomology in dimension I to homology in dimension n-y. So what we define now are cohomology classes. Taking Poincaré duality, you will have homology classes. And homology classes has a very interesting application. First of all, you can define the combinatorial formula. The Whitney, Stiefel-Whitney homology class, you can define as a combinatoric formula, which is very nice. This is a result from Alperin and Toledo here, okay, Alperin and Toledo. They show that if you take all simplices in the barycentric subdivision of the triangulation, here you take a triangulation. So you take a triangulation, barycentric subdivision, so you have all simplices of the barycentric subdivision. You put here a sign, plus or minus, but if you reduced modulo 2, all is +1. So this infinite chain with all barycentric simplices in the barycentric subdivision represents the modulo 2 Stiefel-Whitney homology class of M. And this Stiefel-Whitney here class in homology is represented by a very nice, very well described infinite chain, which is a cycle. Okay, and this gives you a Stiefel-Whitney homology class. So Stiefel-Whitney homology class have a combinatorial representation. Also, the other application, which is very important, is about cobordism. You know that two manifold, M and N, M is one cycle, N is two circle here, and they are cobordant. What does it mean? It means that there is a W, a one-dimensional Moore manifold, such that the boundary of W is M union N. We don't look at orientation here, so it is non-oriented cobordism. Okay. You have also a notion of oriented cobordism taking care of orientation, but here no, you don't care of it. Okay, so you can compute the cohomology. You can take the cup product of all possible cohomology class of Stiefel-Whitney cohomology classes such that the sum of indices is equal to n. Okay, so you have now an element in the n cohomology group Hn of M, and so you can, that is a cohomology, it's a co-chain, a co-cycle, and you can take evaluation of it on the fundamental class of M, which is an element in homology of the same dimension n. So if you apply n cochain to an n chain, you obtain an integer modulo 2 here because all these guys are modulo 2. Okay, so you can compute all this Stiefel-Whitney number with the sum of indices equal n, and Pondriagin in 47 shown that if M is the boundary of a smooth compact manifold, then all the Stiefel numbers are 0. And later, Tom proves the converse. If all the Stiefel, which is much more difficult, if all the Stiefel-Whitney numbers are 0, then M is the boundary of some smooth compact manifold. So that is a very nice result by Pontryagin and Tom. A smooth compact manifold is the boundary of some smooth compact unoriented manifold if and only if all Stiefel-Whitney numbers vanish. I will not speak more of cobordism, but in Brazil, there are many people working on cobordism in many places. So it's very interesting. So now I will show you to finish one nice thing by Whitney. Whitney was the first with his friend Gilman to go along this ridge here to up, which is in Cannon Mountains in States. And there are two ways to go here. I hope you are not vertigo. You can go up by this green or by this variance here in red. And if you go, here you are, it's you here, you see, and people in the bottom here, and you are climbing, it's very good, so you are very well, very good. And the first climbing was by Whitney and his friend Gilman. It's not Whitney here, it's you, it's you. So thank you, muito obrigado e fiquem bem.